The market melt-up continues. The S&P 500 up 0.61% today. I know you guys are getting sick of me saying this in every single video, but the gamma exposure has been leading us higher every step of the way. We blew through the 6,000 level, which was a big GEX level a couple of weeks ago. We blew through the 6050 level in yesterday's trading session, and we highlighted the 6100 level was the next target. So we made pretty decent momentum up towards that 6100 strike today, and now we're just within a hair of that 6100 level, closing today at 6086. The market definitely starting to feel a little bit frothy up here. We do have continued interest at the 6200 strike, and even if we scroll up on our chart just a little bit further, you can actually see that the 6300 strike, 6250 and 6300 strikes are also starting to build interest. Now that doesn't mean that this is going to be a target at those levels currently, but we like to watch this in advance to see how positioning is building and what is the time frame that the gamma exposure is building in. In the options market, we can actually analyze what expiration date that the market is concentrating in at different strike prices. But for now, as I mentioned, the 6100 strike looks to be the most important. We are starting to get a little bit stretched here on our GEX intensity gauge. This measures, as we've mentioned before, our historical ranges for gamma exposure. We are nearing the far end of this range on the positive side. This is negative GEX on this side, and this is positive GEX on this side, and here's our zero marker. And so we are nearing the extreme end of the positive GEX range, and that basically just means we are in buy the dip mode, and it's starting to get an extreme. And that's basically why we have not seen any dips whatsoever. We've barely had any dips. These dips are so shallow, it barely gives market participants any room to get in. So we're definitely at an extreme, and we'll be watching the action as we come into this upper dealer cluster zone here at 6100.
Thanks, Anthony. You have some good points on the S&P. I'm going to look at the NASDAQ. Let's take a look at QQQ, which we had observed a few days ago as potentially having opportunity relative to the S&P, as the S&P was close to the top Keltner channel and the NASDAQ was down here holding the whole moving average, but with a lot of room overhead to reach that top channel. We can see what happened. We saw this huge move up for the NASDAQ, and we're now at this 522 top Keltner, and the Keltners keep moving higher. That's what's so amazing about this channel, which has been just a huge bull move since the September low. And I wanted to point out, we are, just as Anthony mentioned about being a little stretched, the NASDAQ is no exception. And I wanted to point out just the last 3 times we came up to this channel, you can see we had some sort of a pullback. This is all in the context of an uptrend, but still, once you see price get this far, I personally won't be putting on new long trades until we see a little bit of a reset here. We are at the edge of this dealer cluster zone, which is 523, and really we have seen a bullish increase in positive GEX. So we even have some positive GEX here at 530. This dealer cluster zone does extend all the way up to 530. So, I don't necessarily think it's going to just go straight up and hit 530 before we see a pullback. We may see a pullback any moment. And we even saw the VIX going up while the market's rising today, which is interesting. So when we've seen QQQ hit this 1 billion mark, at least this year, that's actually been fairly close to a top. So, we may see a pause here, but the picture is still bullish into year end.
Yeah, Sean, the Qs have been rallying for the last several trading sessions, and Amazon has been rallying for the last several trading sessions as well, really rocketing up here right into the 220 strike. This has actually been a target of ours in our community Discord. We've been discussing a trade idea here in Amazon, and we'll just come over here to a post we made back on November 15th. Amazon had just had a pretty nasty pullback right down into the 200 strike, and this was the structure of the GEX on Amazon back on November 15th. And even though the 200 strike was the largest gamma exposure concentration, we had positive GEX all throughout up to 220. And we had noticed that the 220 strike had been growing over the past several trading sessions while Amazon's price had pulled back all the way into the 200 zone. And so we actually used this to go long the 205, 220 call debit spreads expiring December 20th. And if we just fast forward to today, we actually took this position off, $1,200 gain. This is on our $10,000 model portfolio. And most of those gains really came in the last few trading sessions with the big move up right into that 220 strike that we had been watching for the last couple of weeks. So back to the current setup on Amazon, we actually tagged the 220 level this morning. And as often happens, we did get a little rejection off of this upper dealer cluster zone. I don't see a lot of gamma exposure growing at these higher strikes. And so for now, we're going to wait for either consolidation or most likely a pullback on Amazon before we get back into this name. It's been a great run up though. And so, happy to lock in our profits here. And I think anything above the 220 strike is really an area that's going to see a lot of selling pressure come in given the current gamma exposure setup.
All right, Anthony. We've been talking about Bitcoin targeting this 100K for quite a while now. And all it takes is a day. We saw a pretty sharp move today. We're still not quite there, but we're rapidly approaching 100,000. And we even see some gamma that has started to show up at 105. Overall, the Bitcoin picture does show positive gamma. Not a lot of interest below 90K at all. And we have, these higher strikes at 105, like we just saw, and then we have even at 110 and 120. And we'll go over here and look at the chart. Very bullish chart with this solid uptrend and the Keltner's angle straight up. We are above the whole moving average, and basically this top line keeps growing. So 103 is currently the top of the channel, very close to that 105 gamma level we saw. So any dip that we see in Bitcoin for the time being is likely a buying opportunity as long as we see the gamma picture look the way that it does. So the odds point higher for Bitcoin.
Yeah, nothing says risk on like Bitcoin hitting 100,000. Next, let's take a look at Nvidia. Nvidia, another big risk on name. We bounced off of this lower dealer cluster level here below the 135 level last week and have been in rally mode ever since then. We mentioned in a couple of videos ago that we needed to see a break above the 140 level. This was previously the largest GEX level. Once this 140 level broke, the 150 strike immediately came back into play. Now, by far the largest gamma exposure concentration. Look at the volume today. Over 400,000 contracts trading, which is almost as much as the amount of contracts trading at the 145 strike, which of course is where we closed out the day. So Nvidia continuing to look good for a year-end move back up into this 150 level. And if we just pull the chart down a little bit, I don't see a lot of interest growing at the 155 or 160 strike. So above 150 is probably an area where selling pressure may increase, but up until we get to that range, it looks like smooth sailing. Any dips will likely be bought as the price moves towards this 150 into year end. That is our most likely scenario for Nvidia, and so far it's been playing out according to the GEX data.
Let's take a look at Gilead, which is a name that we've traded successfully just a few months ago. We've had gamma increasing since the middle of November in a positive way. And you can see we have this large gamma cluster at 95 compared to the price of just below 92. I like that we see volume at higher strikes, both 95 and even at 100. And if we go over and take a look at the chart, you can see that we do have a couple of red candles here, but we're still holding the middle Keltner. The price is largely in an uptrend, and we do have these Keltner channels that look bullish. So it looks like pretty good odds to see this make it to somewhere between 95 and 100.
All right, guys, remember you can get access to our gamma exposure dashboard and our option flow analytics by heading over to geeksoffinance.com. You can sign up and become a member. This is the last day of our Black Friday special, $300 off our annual portfolio manager tier subscription. Use code Black Friday at checkout, last day for that. Also, don't forget to check out our community Discord. I'll put a link down in the description below for that as well. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.